Max is chilling in my city.
Yeah.
You know, in my city. But that's
You're
okay.
New York native. There he is.
In my city. Let's be clear about that.
You call Maxtown your city?
Come on now.
What's up, Max?
You're in the city. You're in the city. When we talk about the city, the boroughs, that's not you. That's just not you.
All right.
Max is a Long Island kind of guy.
No, he's not. He is not.
Born in the Bronx, grew up downtown Manhattan.
Manhattan. See what I'm saying? That's how you know. That's how you know already. Okay,
yeah.
But it's all right. I'm not going to hold it against him. Good luck.
All right, let's get into it, guys. Coming up, former Packer Greg Jennings is calling out Aaron Rodgers again for getting too much credit for their success. We'll debate if he has a point there, but we kick things off with Jerry Jones, where options are a positive and decisions are on the horizon. Addressing his quarterback situation on 105.3 The Fan yesterday. Jerry, are you rolling with Dak or awaiting Romo's return?
I don't use the word problem in this conversation. This is a great situation. And to be sitting there with a team coming on the way that it is, both sides of the ball, with it improving like it is, then to have Romo with his abilities sitting there healthy, ready to play, and then to have Dak Prescott playing at the level he's playing with the future staring there motivating us, all of that is a great situation. No, I don't have a time frame. There is no time frame.
Stephen A., does it matter that he doesn't have a time frame?
Well, it matters because what he's refusing to do is acknowledge the fact that Dak Prescott is his quarterback. That means he's holding on for dear life for Tony Romo to come back and ultimately to exercise his authority as the owner, the president, the GM, and everything in between, and insert a guy by the name of Tony Romo who's won a career 2 playoff games. I mean, when you look at Jerry Jones right now, you have to legitimately look at him and say, is something wrong with you? Considering the way that Dak Prescott has looked, considering the level of production that he's put forth, to hear from our NFL aficionados that Dak Prescott hasn't even really been talked to by the Jerry Joneses of the world, by the Jason Garretts of the world and others as it pertains to his tenure for the rest of this season. It's absolutely amazing. It tells you that the prodigal son, which is Tony Romo, the adopted child of Jerry Jones, the guy who might as well change his name to Jones. It should be Tony Jones instead of Tony Romo. It's Jerry Jones looking out for his adopted son, reminding the world, and particularly Dak Prescott, this ain't really your team. I'm going to hold on for dear life before I take it away from this man, because this man has done so much for me. After all, I mean, have you seen Tony Romo? He's been absolutely spectacular for us. I mean, 8-8, 8-8, 8-8, 6-10 seasons, okay? I mean, there's no question about it. There was an aberration, little aberration when they went 12-4, but outside of that, he's wreaked mediocrity all over the place. Yet and still, Jerry Jones will sit up here and treat this dude like he's Troy Aikman, like he's a 3-time Super Bowl champion, like he's Roger Staubach, for crying out loud. This is the Jerry Jones that we know and love. I have no problem with it whatsoever. It falls right in line with what I suspected all along, Max Kellerman, and that is this. In the end, somehow, some way, Jerry Jones will find a way to get in the way and mess all of this up. When I look at the Dallas Cowboys running game, when I look at the offensive line, when I look at the personnel that they have on the offensive side of the ball, the way their defense is playing, particularly their secondary, which is very impressive, obviously from a talent perspective, there's not much you could say about the Dallas Cowboys. So there's only one thing for them to live up to their MO of being the accident waiting to happen that they are. Somehow, some way, they just won't let you down with it. And it seems to me to be laid out right before us. Somehow, some way, Jerry Jones will use Tony Romo to get in his own way and that of his organization and mess all of this up. It falls right in line with what I suspect about the Dallas Cowboys. So I just want you and Cowboy Nation out there to recognize this. I'm just chilling in the cut. I'm waiting out. I'm waiting back. I'm just going to sit back and relax. I'm not going to panic, Mac. I'm going to chill out. I'm going to make sure that I got my cheese doodles while I'm sitting there in front of the games on Sundays or Mondays or whenever the hell the Dallas Cowboys are playing. And I'm just going to wait for them to do what I've always known them to do. You just wait and see.
Well, I hope you're right. As a Giants fan, but as is frequently the case, you're wrong. To paraphrase Marlon Brando, Vito Corleone in The Godfather, paraphrase. You know, Jerry Jones is a figurehead. he never could have put together this offensive line. But it wasn't until they took Zach Martin over Johnny Manziel that I realized it was Stephen Jones all along. He ceded power to Stephen Jones. Stephen Jones makes the decisions, the tough ones, the big decisions that need to be made. When push comes to shove, it's the son that now gets his way over the father. And you can see that from that Manziel draft I just referenced. What happened to the Cowboys? All of a sudden they're good, and they've done it the right way. They didn't go for big, splashy, flashy moves. They built from the draft on the offensive line. Stephen Jones, that's what happened. He started putting his foot down, and he started getting his way. So does Jerry Jones feel allegiance to Tony Romo? Sure, of course, obviously. You said his adopted son, sure. But it's a huge decision in the direction of the franchise, and I'm here to tell you, Stephen Jones will once again get his way. Now, there's an if. If Dak Prescott continues to play well and they continue to win. But let's say they don't. When's the earliest possible time that Tony Romo can come back? So I got the schedule in front of me. They have a bye, right? Then they can eat the Eagles at home. It's in 2 weeks. Let's say Dak loses that game and throws some interceptions. The following week, they're at Cleveland. Let's assume they beat Cleveland. I think that's a safe assumption. Then they're at Pittsburgh. They could lose to Pittsburgh, and they'd still be okay with their record sitting at 6-3. They'd have to lose 5 weeks from now to Baltimore at home before Tony Romo got a start. And then, if Romo started, he'd have Washington at home, divisional rivalry, and then on short rest on a Thursday game, he'd have to go to Minnesota, where they're likely to lose, and maybe the quarterback gets hurt. Like, if Romo even gets back, even if Dak doesn't play well, even if the Cowboys start to lose, he ain't getting back for a month and a half, and when he does, he's running into a buzzsaw. So Jerry Jones can say whatever he wants and try to, let something go wrong as usual, an accident waiting to happen, as you say. But I don't think he can right now, Stephen A. And not only that, I don't think his son had let him.
Let me ask you this question. The Dallas Cowboys have won 5 straight. Not only have they won 5 straight, Max Kellerman, but 2 rookies, Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott, have been balling out. You got the 8th-ranked offense, the number 2 rushing attack. You got a quarterback that's a rookie 4th-round pick who's completing nearly 69% of his passes and has thrown 1 interception in his first 6 games of his NFL career. How difficult is it for the franchise, the owner in particular, to sit up there and say, we can't disrupt this apple cart. We can't mess with what's going on here. This is something special, and we're all on this ride and enjoying every moment of it. Has he said that? No. What he's allowed to happen is a rookie 4th-round pick who's starting for him, who's producing for him on a very high level, to be left dangling in the wind at the specter of Tony Romo coming back any moment and producing. I'm saying to you, we don't know. We believe, because we've seen the poise that Dak has exercised, we believe that Dak can handle it. He clearly can, because he's shown that he can handle it. He's a mature kid, very talented, very poised, etc. But think about that for a second. We're so protective of the quarterbacks. We're so protective not just of their performance, but their psyche and mentality, which is why we make such a big deal about Odell Beckham Jr., because we're worried about the impact that's going to have on Eli Manning. So you're worried about a guy in Eli Manning that has been in the league for over a decade, hasn't missed a single start, is a 2-time champion, and there's an ultra level of sensitivity that gets attached to him. But we're going to throw that out the window when it comes to a rookie who was a 4th-round pick who's left dangling in the wind. Why is that? There's only one reason. Because of a love for Tony Romo, an individual that has been your starter for 9 full seasons and has won a grand total of 2 playoff games, and you're reluctant to pull the plug on him, even at this moment in time. The Dallas Cowboys, particularly Jerry Jones, should be ashamed of himself. It makes no sense. It has no rhyme or reason to it, other than the fact, this is my boy. I want to take care of him. Because you got to remember something.
Loyal.
Hey, listen, you got to remember something very, very important, Max Kellerman. Thanksgiving's coming up. We know that Jerry wants to invite Tony Romo over before they go to Texas Stadium. Christmas is coming up. Max, we know that Tony Romo, he wants to go over there or wants Tony Romo to come over his crib and exchange Christmas gifts. We know that that's what Jerry Jones wants to do. Thanksgiving and Christmas is coming up. And let's face reality. I figured it out. I figured it all out, okay? He doesn't want, first of all, he doesn't want to pull a plug on Tony Romo. And secondly, and most importantly, he doesn't want to ruin his holidays. Yeah. Thanksgiving and Christmas is coming up. We know, it's the season, man. We know what time it is, Max. We know what time it is.
Romo's going to find a lump of coal in his stocking this Christmas season because, as I said, it's not going to be up to Jerry Jones in the end. Stephen Jones is going to get his way. That's number one. So everything he said might be true. It's not entirely true, but let me concede it for a second. Still not going to matter because Stephen Jones is going to make the sound football decision and put his body in front of Jerry's unsound kind of ego decision. That's one. Two, Dak Prescott has 5 wins and a loss. 5 wins to every loss and counting, right? When last seen, Tony Romo was doing the same thing. They weren't losing with Tony Romo under center. They were winning. Tony Romo was playing a top-notch brand of football, and the Cowboys were rolling with Tony Romo. So it's not as though, well, you have this great thing, and you had a bum before. You had a really good player before. You have a really good player now. Most of us would be on the same page. The younger player who's on a roll, leave it alone. But it's not unheard of that you would reinsert the veteran quarterback who is rolling similarly to the now rookie.
You sound like a bunch of noise. I mean, the bottom line is you know Jerry Jones.
Wow.
I mean, you sound like a bunch of noise because you're trying to protect Jerry Jones. Oh, he's going to be covering Stephen Jones. Oh, stop it. Right. I mean, that's the only thing.
Did they draft Zach Martin or Johnny Manziel?
They drafted Zach Martin. So
do you think Jerry Jones didn't want to draft Johnny Manziel?
Johnny Manziel coming into the draft has some issues.
With a steak in front of him.
Johnny Manziel coming into the draft has some problems, and that's the only reason why Johnny Manziel is not in a Dallas Cowboys uniform.
When Jerry Jones sees a guy like Johnny Manziel, he salivates. Oh, my God, he's got to be the Dallas Cowboys quarterback. And it didn't happen, did it?
I got you. I got you.
Stephen A. is betting on the accident waiting to happen. Max on Stephen Jones. But is anybody betting on the Cubs?
I'm praying on the accident waiting to happen.
I'm praying. All right, details. The Dodgers made history last night. It was the first time they've ever thrown back-to-back postseason shutouts, defeating the Cubs 6-0 and taking a 2-1 lead in the NLCS. This was just the first time the Cubs have been shut out in 2 straight games since May of 2014, and they've now lost 9 of their past 10 NLCS games. Stephen A., are you still sticking with the Cubbies to win it all?
Yes, I am. I'm not going to jump ship on them. I am incredibly concerned about Anthony Rizzo. He has been flagrantly ineffective, and this is a dude that batted .292 during the regular season, smacked 32 home runs. I expected more from him. I'm not getting it. I expected more from Chris Bryant and the crew. I'm not getting it. They've been shut out in 2 consecutive games. Now, I'm not holding anything against them going up against Clayton Kershaw. I mean, that's a bad brother. I mean, Clayton Kershaw is special, okay? I'm not holding anything against them for that. That 2-hitter that he pitched over 7 innings, I mean, he was absolutely sensational. And Jansen, for some reason, they can't hit him right now. You got to figure him out somehow, some way. By the way, the Mets need to go after him in the offseason because Lord knows Familia. I get rid of him. Get Jansen, get him from L.A. to the New York Mets. But that's a different story for another day. I'm a Yankees dude. Here's the deal.
There you go.
I look at the Cubs, and I just say to myself right now, listen, great pitching beats anybody. And Hill was spectacular as well. Can they do it again in Game 6 and 7 if the Cubs are able to force that? I don't think so. Maybe Kershaw. I'm not betting on Hill doing it for a second time. I'm not of that mindset. I can't believe how silent the Cubs' bats are. I think palms have gotten sweaty. You know, backsides have gotten tight. They're a bit nervous, and they need to get it together. But I believe in Joe Madden. All right, Arrieta wasn't a great night last night. Wasn't a great night last night. He hasn't been great for a little while. had a bad summer as far as I'm concerned. I think Leicester will be better tonight. I think somehow, some way their bats will get flowing. But I will openly admit I'm speaking off of emotion and hope because I want this curse to come to an end. My usual ingredient when it comes to baseball is I look at pitching. If you can give me two big-time pitchers in the postseason, I would pick them to win the championship every single time. I saw Kershaw coming. I didn't see Hill coming. I don't know why, but I didn't see Hill coming like this. Max, I'm of the mindset this is the last stance for the Cubs. The Cubs cannot lose Game 4. They cannot lose Game 4. They've got to win this game. I'm thinking they're going to find a way to pull it off, notch this series at 2-2, and move on from there. But I will admit, it's more hope right now because Hill and Kershaw are scaring the living hell out of me.
This is why I took the field over the Cubs. This is the nature of baseball. Best team doesn't always win. Best team in baseball is the Chicago Cubs. Won 103 games. We had 162 games to see who the best was. It's them. But a postseason format, short series, even though it's not 5 games, it's 7 games after the first round, it still doesn't always give you the best team as the winner. That's why the formula for winning changes in the postseason. Defense, especially up the middle, and arms that miss bats. Now, Kershaw is not a big game pitcher, right?
Not
anymore. Hasn't been that way in the postseason, except the bad games have come against the Cardinals. And by the way, there are those who suspect the Cardinals stole signs. I mean, it was uncanny the way the Cardinals hit Kershaw. No one else seems to be able to. And he, during the regular season, is not only the best pitcher in the game, but is on a very short list for greatest regular season pitcher who ever lived in his prime. He's with Sandy Koufax and 1 or 2 other guys, Lefty Grove, a couple other guys, as regular season greatest prime stretch we've ever seen. If he can start to do that in the postseason, it's over anyway. But forget about Hill, who's always been an up-and-down guy. He's always missed bats, big curveball, early in his career, a real prospect, kicked around as a reliever, back to dominating, as you saw last night. Maeda is another guy who misses bats. They brought him in as a free agent. He misses bats. He's a starting pitcher. And, of course, Urias is another guy, 20-year-old, who misses bats, a guy who's getting guys out and striking guys out. So you have that kind of formula in your starting staff. What about the defense? Look, you keep bringing up guys, Rizzo and guys who play on the corners. And this doesn't speak to defense directly, but it speaks to where you want your offense. Everyone's got a first baseman or a right fielder who can hit, you know, the corner guys. Those guys can hit. Who has the catcher, the shortstop, the center fielder who can hit, like the greatest dynasty in the modern baseball era, the New York Yankees of the late 90s with Posada and Jeter and Bernie Williams. You look at what Friedman has done with the Dodgers. You have Grandal, which was a steal of a trade he made with San Diego behind the plate. He can hit for a catcher. Forget about just framing pitches. He can hit.
You're losing me. You're losing me. Go ahead.
Why?
Go
of
ahead.
course, Seager...
Go ahead.
Huh?
Go ahead.
Seager at shortstop and Jock Peterson in center field. These are defensive positions where they can hold it down defensively, but they got big bats at those positions, which are hard to find. When you look at the formula, like what you're trying to do with a team if you're trying to win, are the Cubs better? Yeah, over 162 games, they're better. But if you spot the Dodgers a game, which is now what's happened, and they've got Kershaw and the other elements I just mentioned, the Dodgers at this point's got to be favorites to win. Forget about the next round where they're facing probably Cleveland, but maybe Toronto, even if they got by the Dodgers. This is why you don't take a team in baseball against the field.
Well, here's the deal. All of that sounds great, and I can't poo-poo it. I'll admit that. I just refuse to believe that the Chicago Cubs are going to continue to bat 161. I just refuse to believe it. I refuse to believe that they're going to go scoreless in 54, 66 innings. That's all I'm saying. When I'm looking at Rich Hill, listen, Kershaw is a given. I get that. To me, the only time he's vulnerable is in a Game 7 because he would have been active throughout the series. It's not like he's not going to pitch again until Game 7. So my mindset as it pertains to Kershaw is that by that time he would have put in enough work. I don't consider him Bumgarner. So because of that, as great as he is, I think the fact that he got hurt, this is the key that nobody has really brought up. Kershaw getting hurt has helped him. Because usually pitching in that Southern California sunshine, that heat, that humidity, etc. One of the things I didn't like about how Don Mattingly used him in years past, Max, was the fact that fatigue kicked in. And I thought that affected his postseason performance personally, because a lot of times I didn't see Clayton Kershaw getting smacked around in 2 or 3 innings. He would usually pitch like 6 strong innings. And
if they would have stopped it after 6 innings, he'd have had a great outing, but they let it go that 7th inning and he gets blown up.
Exactly. So to me, that doesn't speak to his pitching. That speaks to fatigue. He doesn't have that concern now because he got injured and had to sit out a few months, which makes him that much more dangerous. But I got to see him be Bumgarner to believe it. At the end of the day, I think the Cubs have good enough pitching, and I don't believe these bats are going to continue to be as stymied as they were. Rich Hill is the guy to expose, and everybody else. You're going to probably lose to Clayton Kershaw again, but not in a Game 7, maybe. I think you would lose to him in a Game 5.
Later on in the postseason, I want to get into a little bit more of why certain guys perform under pressure, Stephen A.
Sure.